Hey y'all, and welcome back to day 10 of my 12 Days of Christmas series. Today I am working on a Lazy Susan. I made a few of these as gifts last year, so I thought it would be a fun one to share with you guys in case you want to make something a little personalized as a Christmas gift this year. I'm starting with this circular tray that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I waited to buy it until it was half off. So I think it was normally $16.99, and I bought it when it was 50% off. And I took some painter's tape, and what I did is I just placed it on the curve, and then I took my little squeegee and I kind of pressed it in so it was right up against the edge. And then we're going to trim this off before we paint the edge, but here you can see it closer. I just kind of pushed it in so it was flat against the white base, and then we're going to trim it off around the rim. So all I did was, once that was completely taped off, I took my X-Acto knife and I laid it flat on the rim. Actually, I laid it flat on the white base and I drug it around where the edges, and I just pushed really hard so then the tape would all peel up off against the rim and just leave the tape on the white base. Now, I made some black ones last year, which I just used craft paint, and then I did some stained ones, and today we're going to be doing some stained ones. So I wanted to make sure I didn't get any marks on the white area, so I added a few more little painter's tape spots, and then I'm taking this early American stain. My favorite is really Jacobine, I think that's how you say it, but I haven't been able to find it in a while, and I had this can of stain on hand, so I've been really trying to be better about using what I have. So it's still a beautiful stain color. So I just took a paper towel, because that's also what I had handy on my desk, and I just dipped a little bit of the corner of the paper towel in the stain and wiped it on the rim of this board. I didn't want it to be too saturated because I didn't want to chance it seeping under that tape at all or anything like that. So I just did a little at a time, very carefully, and then I flipped it over and did the same thing on the back, because that way we have a cohesive looking tray. I let that dry completely, and then I peeled up all of that painter's tape, and then we're going to move into the next portion. So after that, I mixed up a batch of epoxy, and I epoxied some cups, and then I used what I had left over. In hindsight, I probably should have just mixed up enough for the tray, because I felt like it was just a little bit not quite enough, but it worked, so it was good. I separated what I had into, I kept some in this cup, and then I put a little bit in a these aren't medicine cups, these little plastic cups, and I added a little bit of white alcohol ink to this one, and then in the next one I'm going to add Diamonds and Dust luster dust in the color Pure. It's like a very sparkly white silver, and I didn't want it glittery. I just wanted it kind of like a white marbly look. So what I'm going to do is the plain epoxy, I'm going to go in and cover the whole entire tray with that. And what I did was I poured it on there, and as you can see, it doesn't look like very much, but I didn't want a very thick coat. I just wanted a thin base. I heated it with my heating gun just because it makes it a little bit easier to spread it on this tray. And then I took my little silicone makeup brush thing and spread it all around, and then it really helps with this brush to get it right up against that edge. And I just made sure it was completely covered. And then once I was happy with that, I heated it with my torch just to make sure that I'm popping any bubbles that I may not be able to see. And then I went in first with the luster dust epoxy and just kind of swirled it in, not even swirled it, I laid it in, kind of gave it some veins, just like you would see in a marble look. So I went in with most of that, and then I am going to take my heat gun and blow it around just so it isn't such a straight line. I wanted it to kind of feather out, blend in with the clear epoxy. And then, you know how with marble, it's like not just straight exact lines, it's kind of blended and feathered. That's the kind of look I'm going for with this. I want it very subtle so it's not an overpowering background because we're going to be adding some vinyl wording to it. But I just wanted something that wasn't just all sparkly or wasn't all just one color. So after I moved that sparkly luster dust around, I'm going to add the white alcohol ink epoxy, and same thing, just added some veins, and then the same thing, I'm going to take my heat gun and blend it together. And I just kind of went back and forth. There was a time where after I moved the white epoxy around, I added a little bit more what was left in my cup of the luster dust, and then once I was happy with that, I torched it one more time and set it aside overnight to make sure it was completely dry, and make sure that it's on a level surface while it's drying, because it will self-level and it'll move if it's not perfectly level. After that, I'm going to decide which direction I want it in, which one I want on the top, which direction there's more lines going in. I mean, you don't have to do that. That was just what I was doing. And I cut this quote, and it's the same thing I put on the trays that I made last year, and I really like the saying. So last year I did add my brother and his family's last name on it, and same with my parents. I added their last name and said the Parker family, the Rigdon family. But on this one, I just am leaving it with no name, so I'm just saying the little prayer that I put on there. And then I added some of these little leafy vines to kind of go in the shape of like an open circle. And I cut that out of black permanent vinyl, added that on, and I didn't measure where the middle was. I just eyeballed it because I'm not one to measure. That's just who I am. And I peeled that off and added the leafy vines, and then we're going to add another coat of clear epoxy on top of this, and then that portion I epoxied it until it was completely smooth. So I actually ended up giving it 2 final coats of epoxy after the vinyl work, and then we'll move into the very last step. I had these Lazy Susan hardware on hand, but I just recently saw that they even sell it at Hobby Lobby now, so they're really easy to get. You can even get them on Amazon. So as being the non-measuring person that I am, I just took it out of the package and I kind of lined it up to where it looked like it was in the middle of the tray. I did actually measure just so I wasn't too off, and I just made a mark where it was right in the middle. And then after that, I didn't measure anymore. So I just marked in the middle, and then where the mark for the middle was, I tried to place in the middle of the Lazy Susan hardware, and I just kind of eyeballed that. And then I thought that this hardware came with screws, and it did not. So I went on a hunt for some really tiny screws, because you don't want long screws because it will go into the tray, into the epoxy, and we don't want that. And then I also couldn't find my husband's drill, and being the impatient person that I was, I didn't want to go searching upstairs in the garage. I thought it would be down here in the basement, and it wasn't. So I just found a screwdriver that I had on hand, and I made it work. Screwed it in. I turned it over to make sure that it did not go through the tray, and it did not. I still think I could use some shorter screws if they sell them any shorter. These are just a pack of like picture hanger backings that I had, so it worked. I was feeling to just make sure that it did not. I was so worried that it was going to go through the tray, but it didn't. So I continued, and all 4 of the openings for the screws, I screwed those in, made sure that they were not sticking up enough that the tray could still spin, but were secure enough that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And then this tray was all done. I love it because it can sit in the middle of a kitchen table. You could put it on your kitchen counter, decorate it. It's just a fun, personalized gift. Last year I didn't make them Lazy Susans. I actually just made them trays. So I added a little handle on each side and made it just a cute custom tray. But I thought it would be fun to make it a Lazy Susan this year. So that's what I did, and I love it. You could put napkins, salt and pepper on it. You could just use it as a decor piece even. So that is it. I will have this one available on the website if you want to snag it as a gift for someone or for yourself this year. And that's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I know it's a little bit different, but I like to dabble in other crafts as well. So I will see you tomorrow for day 11 of my series, and I hope you all have a good night. Bye, y'all. Oh, here's a picture of the tray that I made last year for my brother's family. I will also leave all the information, you know, the drill, down in the description box where to find me and the products that I used, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, y'all.